going to show you a couple of ways of making static DHCP reservations in iOS. One where there is a static entry per DHCP pool, and one that actually builds the bindings out of a local database. So I'm going to show you now how to make the static reservations per pool. So what we would do is build our exclusions. And build our pool for the overall network. And this is going to be phones. The default gateway 192.168.10.1. We'll give them some TFTP options. Lease duration and a network. And that would get all the phones DHCP, but then we want to define a specific address to a specific phone. We would have to build an additional DHCP scope. Let's call this phone 1. Do a client identifier, 01 for Ethernet, then the MAC address of the phone. And then the host address that we want to give to this client. So we're going to give this, let's just say .50, and then we can give it the same options for lease duration, TFTP options, and default gateway. Sometimes it's easier to type it. So then we would have our wider subnet pool for the 10 network, 10.1 being default gateway, our TFTP options, lease infinite, and then our exclusions. And then for the individual phone, we'd give an address at 10.50 with this MAC address, same default router. And I think I dropped out of there, but also give it the same TFTP options as well. So I'm going to go ahead and blow these two pools away and show you another way of making reservations, but have multiple reservations tied to a single DHCP pool. So I'm going to leave my exclusions in. I'm going to go back. I'm going to define the DHCP database location. So I'm going to dump this database to Flash. I'm going to just call it static.dhcp. And that alone does not create that file. What will create that file is the interval that the DHCP bindings are dumped to that file, and we can artificially stimulate that file creation, which is what we're going to do here in a moment. We're going to create our DHCP pools. Same options, default router, option 150, lease interval, and actually we're going to use the same network statement. And then I'm going to turn up several phones here, let them grab addresses, and then we'll force those addresses into that database, and then reassign it back to a pool. I'm going to go ahead and restart the DHCP service. It's going to create the file. We can now look at that file. and we can check on our DHCP bindings. We don't have any yet. We'll give it a moment for them to start grabbing addresses. You can see the phones are starting to grab addresses. We're starting to get bindings, so there's 5 bindings. I got 5 phones in front of me, so we're good there. So what I'm going to do is, right now the database hasn't been written, so I'm going to force another write to it. So now that file has been written. We're going to go back to this DHCP pool now. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and remove our reference for our local DHCP database. And in our DHCP pool, I'm going to remove this network statement because we're functionally going to disable the pool portion of this. And then we're going to then point to the file that we've created in Flash with those static reservations, these IP addresses to these MAC addresses with the infinite leases. Now we could have written this file out directly and not going through those other steps, but it's just a quick way to populate that database and get it populated and assign it to the pool. And here's our final configuration. So we have exclusions which we could easily get rid of now as well, because there will be no assignments handed out of this pool because there is no network statement. So no need for the exclusions. And then we have this pool, default router, TFTP options, lease infinite with these bindings. And we can show that these bindings are still in effect.